Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to Boxing Unwrapped. It's Boxing Unwrapped from two guys that cause havoc by having barbecues after 9 p.m. on the west coast of Scotland. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
Welcome to...
You're never going to let
that go.
We'll do the introduction and then we can talk about it because it's very relevant to the podcast. But we'll do the introduction and we'll come back to the story.
Welcome to What the F is the Boxing News, the boxing show that gives you everything you need to know from last week, this week, and all the random shit in between. Andy, do you want to tell the good people what we've got in store for them this week?
Of course. So we're going to run over, as per usual, what the F are the results from last week. We're looking at this side of the pond primarily, but also the other side of the pond, and what happened in deepest, darkest Trossachs as well, which we're going to talk about somewhat. Because I know, Ryan, you're dying to still go on about it. We're going to look at what the F of the fights this weekend. There's very little, but remember, guys, it is summer break. That's why. What went wrong last week? A fairly substantial chunk of random news. We can talk about what grinds our gears and round off with a little bit of listener comment. Right.
Well, before we dive in, let's talk a little bit. You guys must be very happy. We made it back alive. We survived the midgies and the climbing and everything. But the one thing we didn't survive, right? So we've gone and done this 10-hour walk, right? Done 2 Monroes. It took us a little bit longer than the route had suggested. And so we returned back to Immervulen Caravan and Camping Park, not far from Callendar.
Don't say.
Yeah, well, that's the name. This actually happened, so it's true. So anyway, we come back, right, and during the walk, the thing that got us through, right, was that when we got back, we were going to make some bacon double cheeseburgers, right? Fucking dying for these things.
We were gonna each have 2 bacon double cheeseburgers, and we were like, this was the carrot dangling in front of us as we were walking along the donkey path.
So we arrive, we get the bacon, we get some extra burgers, we get back, light up the barbecue, we're both zonked as fuck, I can barely manage to drink my beer, we're mostly through cooking, and then this guy comes up. It was something like out of Deliverance, like proper ding 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 ding. Turns up with these 2 fucking giant dogs, one in each hand, wolfhounds, like just giant things, right? And all we hear is, "You'll need to get rid of that barbecue. Can't barbecue after 9 p.m." Right? So we were ready to charm the pants off him, be like, "Look, you're really reasonable. We got back really late. We're really hungry. We're almost finished." Right? Before we could even start the spiel, he's just, "Not them the rules. You have to turn it off." And he stood there while Andy removed the burgers from the barbecue and then poured water all over our coals, and we still had 2 burgers that weren't quite cooked. We hadn't cooked the bacon, and there was no cheese on these burgers. So be warned, listeners. If you want to go to Immervulen, you need to respect the rules. Otherwise, they'll unleash the hounds.
You start that barbecue good and early, okay, folks? Good and early.
Otherwise, you're in deep trouble, and you end up having to have non-melted cheese and a baconless bacon double cheeseburger.
It's inhumane. It's
savage.
Inhumane,
it's fucking
listeners.
Savage.
We can't cope with
savage.
it. I know.
Anyway, so let's move on then to what the F are the results from last week.
Where would you like to start? We should say that we watched the first time around on the first night when we were a bit more organised and we hadn't been walking for 10 hours. We had a bit more get up and go about it, so we were able to watch the Friday night card on a laptop on a little foldaway table outside in the glorious warm evening, enjoying a beer or two in peace. And the buffering issues that we thought would materialise didn't. So we were able to watch the DAZN Sky Sports card in
it was great, man. If you need to tether a laptop, EE are pretty decent on the west coast of Scotland. Just saying. So let's first talk about Lewis Ritson. He won.
He won.
I mean, of course he was going to. Because he had to fight a late replacement. Whenever you fight a late replacement, this always happens.
You were quite good at pronouncing his name last week, Ryan.
Marek Jedrzejewski.
Oh, you've lost it.
It was way
last
better.
week was better.
It was way better. Jedrzejewski. What?
Jedrzejewski.
But yeah, so we knew that was going to happen. Now, Airdrie's own Mr. Martin Bakolie. Of course he did the business. 1 minute, 20 seconds. It's quick work. Made quick work of this. But the thing is, he's having to batter guys left, right, and centre that are trying to rob him as he's walking down the streets of Airdrie. So this is just like nothing for him. Do you know what I mean? Just gauntlets of people throwing like bottles of iron brew at him, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say the reason he finds boxing so easy is because no one has got bottles of iron brew. Bottles of iron brew.
It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing, you know? No one's trying to chib him. So, good on Martin Bakolie. I wonder, actually, who... there's some chat on Twitter at the moment that it looks like people are saying he's going to be cannon fodder for Usyk as he enters the heavyweight division. That's one of the reasons that Matchroom are trying to promote him so much. Interesting.
Not convinced. That
doesn't convince me either, but you know what Twitter are like, you know? They find out these things. Now, we should...
Yeah, like 1 in 10, and they're 90% of the time it's
shit that people make up. So, let's talk about Anthony Fowler versus Brian Rose, because we watched this, and we had a deep, long, interesting conversation about Anthony Fowler at the end.
We did have a lot. We chatted about him on the hills the next day.
Yeah, totally.
It was me, you, the blue skies, the deer, and Anthony
and those
Fowler
wild
chat.
goats. The word wild
There were
goats.
wild goats.
Yeah. They didn't even give a fuck.
Apparently, wild goats in Scotland are all like feral. Well, they're kind of feral, so they're all goats that were like effectively farmed that have been over the however many hundreds of years that were like escaped and just kind of roam the mountains wild. So apparently there's between 4,000 and 5,000 best estimates of what. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but anyway, we saw something.
It was really fucking cool.
Right?
It was really cool. Anyway, about as interesting as a pack of wild goats, Anthony Fowler fought Brian Rose. Obviously, he won, on points, but at no point looked like he was, being dominant throughout. Like, Brian Rose is an aging fighter. I think this was effectively, he said at the end he was going to think about making this his last fight because, he thinks that's probably it for him. And Anthony Fowler, you would have thought that he'd won a world title at the end of this fight. He was going fucking wild for it. And he was just so mechanical. He doesn't have an X factor. At no point did he look like he was going to end the fight early. I mean, it was pretty non-plus.
The fight was competitive. Yeah. That was the thing. It didn't look like there was one person who's this destined for greatness fighter and another one who's not. It looked like two relatively even matched domestic level fighters. And I think post fight or post hill ascent, we concluded that this is probably, we're not convinced that Fowler's going to go much further.
I really don't think he can, actually. I really don't think he can.
Because Yeah, because it's like, what does he have? He doesn't do anything like exceptionally well. He just seems like a good level domestic fighter, or maybe like European or whatever. But I don't see him going any further. Could be horribly wrong. Hope I am in a way, but I don't see it. I think this is about his level.
mean, he can't even challenge at the moment for like a British level. So.
Well, yeah, I don't see him. Well, we'll see where he goes next, but I don't think he's going to make it all the way. No. Certainly, can't see it.
Not at all. Especially when you look at like who's in his division. The kind of there's good fighters.
Yeah, there's good fighters. Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to Saturday night. Big shout out, by the way, to Andy, aka Champs. One of the listeners, who is like a man of the world. He was at the presser, met Martin Bakolie, and then he was like non-stop off to go see Michael Conlon. Sent us a picture from the fight. Like, unbelievable. Yeah, he gets about a bit. Roving reporter. So, now, I ended up watching the Conlon fight when I got back on Sunday. Managed to kind of, knew what the result was, but I wanted to see it anyway. Now, Conlon cruised to victory over Ruiz. I think we probably would have thought that was going to happen anyway. If I were to be harsh, I would say that it surprised me how difficult Conlon found closing the gap against Ruiz. Now, obviously, Ruiz was backing up like 90% of the time because he didn't want to get hit by Conlon. But, for Conlon to start making real moves towards belts, he's going to need to learn to close that gap, to close good fighters down quickly. And I think 9 rounds was a long time to stop this fight, because
the guys, Diego Ruiz.
No, he wasn't. Like he was totally out of his depth, and you saw that as soon as like round 2, Conlon was dictating the fight, but he just wasn't able to kind of make it fluid enough, or close the gap enough, or be clever enough to close that gap so that he could actually end the fight. And to be honest, it wasn't like Ruiz did get knocked down, but it was the ref that stopped the towel got thrown in for Ruiz rather than Conlon, knocking him out, or the ref stopping the fight. So, I'd like to see Conlon step up in opposition, and maybe we can see where his level is, because I don't think that we can tell right now if he's going to be world class. No,
I agree. I read like a few different reports, and how I think I've talked about this before, but some of the boxing, inverted commas, journalism pieces online, they merge kind of like reporting about the fight into opinion pieces. So you get this sort of combined. It's a really common kind of format for lots of the different websites where they go, This is what happened in the fight. Oh, by the way, this guy's rubbish. This guy's a bit less rubbish, but still quite rubbish. This other guy didn't fight much better than either of them. And, they kind of merged into that. And I read a few of them, and they were not like the consensus. It's not a consensus, but the opinions that I read were generally fairly, a little bit unconvinced about Conlon. He's signed up with ESPN, isn't he? Like
he's a top-ranked fighter. He's Bob Arum,
Yeah, so he's got some backing. So you think, well, I don't know, maybe you'll get a kind of good sort of stab at it. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure what will happen. I don't know if he'll make it or not. I think, like you're saying, kind of remain to be convinced, really.
Yeah. Now, Kownacki versus Arreola. Now, here's one thing I do want to say, right? All the American commentators call him Kownacki. Did you hear this?
So I've heard his name pronounced several different ways, and I don't know what's correct. So if we have any Polish listeners that would like to definitively say how his name should be pronounced, then please get in touch.
Yeah, otherwise we're just going to call him Kownacki on this show. What a slugfest this was. Man, honestly, like, neither of them left, like, I mean, fucking Arreola's face, by the way, must be made of absolute granite, because he just gets punched. I mean, the fact he broke his hand in, like, the third or fourth round, and was basically fighting with one hand the entire time. It's fucking unbelievable.
What I find extraordinary about this is that, like, apparently the stats crunching said that Arreola threw twice as many punches as he ever had done previous. Is that not very odd?
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially like considering he's only got 50% of the hands for most of the fight. You know?
It makes it even more strange.
Yeah, but like they had the one I watched, they did have like a punch count in the corner, and you could see like obviously punches landed to thrown. We've talked about CompuBox before on this show, and
not being an exact science.
Yeah, but still there were a lot of punches thrown, and for like relatively big guys, it's quite impressive. I mean, the only other person I know of that's thrown that many punches is Usyk.
Well, so do you know who? So Arreola threw more punches in the fight than Kownacki did. He didn't land. I don't think he landed as many, but he threw more. So Arreola threw 1,125 punches, which was the new heavyweight record. And do you know who he usurped to take the record?
Who was this?
Dillian White.
No way.
I know, it's weird, huh? I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
When he fought friend of the pod, Dave Allen.
Fucking hell, that was back when Dave Allen was just like there to be pit as well. So
yeah, I think it would have been a bit, yeah.
Now,
so they set the two of them set a new punch record. The new overall heavyweight punch record.
In a wider context of this, though, there's a couple of questions that I have, because Arreola is obviously a gatekeeper fighter. He does. He might be retiring. He's unsure. I think he's going to wait until his hand heals and then decide. He's aging. Kownacki, although obviously threw a whole bunch of punches, we've always talked about him being pretty devastating with his power. It seemed to me he didn't really have the power against Arreola. No. And it was very much one of these like you go, I go kind of fights. There was no real counter punching to it as well.
I agree. Yeah, which is kind of, I think there's a thing about, like, we've talked before about heavyweights tend to be more prone to doing that than other weight divisions because of the amount of effort that's involved in terms of like the physiological pressures it puts on you because their bodies are so big. But obviously that's kind of like doesn't quite work out with this because the punch output was so high. But it's I mean, it is hard to say, well, he landed so many punches to say, oh, well, he's devastating, because I mean, they weren't all like, full on, like fully loading up power punches. You just can't throw that many punches if you're fully committing, like try to load up on them. But I think there is a question mark about maybe against more durable opponents. Maybe he's not that. Maybe it'll be like he'll have to be grinding the higher level guys down, and it's whether, I mean, his punch resistance was good as well. That's what he said. He took like a lot of punches as well. So it's really, is he the sort of person that's going to get in these kind of grinding people down in these wars? But the problem with that is obviously if you try and do it with someone like, all the chat is about next year if he fights Wilder. But I mean, could he live with like taking a few of Wilder's best? I'm not sure. That's a tough ask because he does look relatively easy to hit, and obviously everyone knows for all his flaws, he's kind of got Wilder's got the kind of one punch knockout stuff. So I don't know. See how robust Kownacki would be to absorbing that kind of punishment. I don't know.
Yeah, but so it happened. But a very good fight to watch. I think probably very, like very of the weekend's fights, definitely I think it was probably the most entertaining.
Yeah, and important news on that regard in terms of this fight.
Uh-huh.
Well, you owe me a beer.
What? Oh, fuck.
Because I was closer. You said
Yeah.
you said 4th round knockout. I said 6th round. No, sorry, big man.
Fuck's
sorry.
sake, man. Fuck's sake. This is why I'm shit at betting. Right.
Oh, I've got one more to talk about from the undercard.
Yeah.
Or well, I don't know if it's co-main event or whatever. A bit of an upset. Marcus Brown lost to Jean Pascal. So if you remember, Marcus Brown won by a reasonably dominant points display against Badu Jack. I think it must have been last year. Jean Pascal, if I'm not mistaken, in his last-ish outing was beaten comprehensively by my favourite light heavyweight, Dimitri Bivol. Pascal's getting on a bit, and Brown was a big favourite. Now, Brown dominated the fight, apart from the fact that he got knocked down 3 times.
Yes.
So it was really weird that Brown was having all of the action, but then got knocked down once kind of reasonably early doors, and then twice in the one round right near the end, I think in the 7th. And then in the 8th round, they had a nasty head clash, and the fight had to be stopped. And they went to the judges' scorecards, and Pascal was ahead by a point on the cards, so he was awarded the decision. So a real strange sequence of events, really, a strange fight, but a bit of an upset, or like quite a substantial upset, because everyone would have been backing Brown to win that one. But very interesting.
Very interesting.
Oh, by the way, actually no, I'll talk about it later.
Well, let's move on then to our newest segment, the 6 Degrees of Danny Williams.
Fuck's sake.
Now, you challenged me last week, right?
I know.
You challenged me last week. So, here is your challenge, Andy. Right?
I know. I should have done that.
Going from Johnny the Hurricane Mueller to
What?
Danny Williams.
Is he a cruiserweight?
Well, he's kind of fluctuated between heavy and cruiser, but yeah, mainly cruiser.
I don't know. I feel like. Can you give me a clue as to what period he was at? When did he retire?
So he is still active. He's South African. He's still active. Right?
Johnny the Hurricane Mueller.
Yeah.
Did he have? I really wish we had. This is the one that makes me look a right dick, because probably loads of people were shouting out, going, "Oh, how do you not know him? He's well famous." And I don't fucking know who he is. I'm not gonna get this guy. I've never heard of him. I feel like maybe I should have heard of him, but I can't. Has he fought Danny Williams? Is this a trick?
No. He has fought someone you definitely know of. I'll give you a clue, right?
Go on then. I'll
give you a clue. He's fought people mainly from South Africa, bar one Ukrainian cruiserweight.
Oh, okay. Usyk.
Yes.
You're not doing you're not like, this is only fights that have happened, right?
Yes.
I'm not, so I can't go via.
No.
Okay. Bellew, Hay, Harrison, Williams.
Oh, well, yeah, you can do it that way as well, yeah. Yeah, you can do it that way. Right.
Was there a much easier way?
There was an easier way, actually. Mueller, Usyk, Bradis, Williams.
Is Bradis fought Williams?
Bradis has fought Williams.
What?
Yeah. Maris Bradis has fought Danny Williams.
A heavyweight?
Cruiserweight, I think.
Well, I wouldn't have got that in a million years. But anyway,
right. There we go.
You gave me the starter. You gave me the starter for 10.
I gave you the starter for 10.
That was good.
That was really good.
I was a little bit. You went hard. You went a bit hard on me there. I thought.
Oh, I thought you would have got it. I thought we talked about this Bradis thing before. I thought we talked about this Bradis thing before.
No, but I didn't know who the guy was. Like, I'm never going to just randomly go, "Oh, this rubbish South African cruiserweight. Oh, I bet he's fought Usyk."
So, there we go. Well, on that note, let's move on to
too tense. I can't count on it. I need a drink.
What the F are the fights this weekend?
Do you know what's the fight and what's not the fight this weekend?
I do know what not the fight is. The fight that there is not the fight of Carl Frampton versus Emmanuel Dominguez.
Yeah.
Which is interesting actually, because obviously it was a freak accident and he made it very clear to post every single little tiny bit on Twitter so it made like he didn't pull out. But he's now like, oh well fuck it, I'm just gonna go straight for a world title now. World title or bust.
Nice.
So,
well, if you feel like you're getting on and you've kind of, I think maybe if a part of the process was to do the camp and the sparring, etc., maybe you go fuck it, it wouldn't have mattered, because Dominguez wasn't a very good fighter. So, does he learn an awful lot? Does he gain an awful lot from actually the fight? I don't know. As opposed to just having the camp to motivate him to go through it. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So that's not on this weekend.
Why not? That's not on this weekend. He signed a multi-fight deal, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Is that with Top Rank?
Yeah,
Well,
it is, yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not convinced that... I don't know. Frampton's obviously got a good following and stuff, but I'm not totally convinced about... I'd be curious to see how much he's got left in the tank.
I don't think much, man. Based on his last fight, not much is the answer. You know?
Well, you don't think he's... It seems to be that like his peak was the fights. I know he lost that one, but the fights against Santa Cruz, and that was a good few years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been quite the same since. Anyway, we'll see what happens to him. DAZN and Sky Sports, Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Antonio Orozco. Now, Virgil Ortiz is 21 years old, and he's unbeaten with, I think, all knockouts. I can't remember how many fights he's got, but they're all knockouts, I think. And he's Golden Boy's Golden Boy.
Yep.
So he's highly touted. Orozco's decent, but not fabulous, and he'll be expected to beat him. But Ortiz is super highly touted, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah. Cool. Well, then, shall we move on to what the F went wrong last week?
Now, you know, we talked about everybody's favourite idiot. We talk about him, we give him a lot of airtime.
Yeah, too much airtime. Yes.
Too much airtime. We talk about him being like an idiot with carrying about all his money in a knapsack.
Yes.
But it does occur to me that, like, because he's young and impressionable, he's probably... You know, this is because this is what his mentor does. He's probably just, like, a bit dim, and he's just copying Mayweather.
Yeah, totally. You know, he thinks this is what you have to do to be a cool boxer.
Yeah, it's like, is this what I do, Dad? Is this how I'm supposed to behave? It's like, yes, it is. You are supposed to walk around with a knapsack full of money and throw it in people's faces who are poor. It's very entertaining, and people love you if you do it. So I kind of, I don't know, maybe he's just an impressionable young pup. Also on that, also regarding him, we talked about why doesn't he fight anyone decent. So I looked through the list of the WBA's ranked super featherweights, their top 10, and we talked about him before, but Andrew Cancio is a regular belt holder. He's quite good. He's like probably around about the fifth best in the division, and then I think there was one other one that crept in the top 10 in the WBA's ranking. So my point is that the WBA's rankings are kind of, as to be expected, kind of nonsense. So even if they call them mandatory, it won't necessarily be a particularly challenging fight for him. So he does need to make a decision that he's going to fight someone decent, because no one's going to force his hand, I don't think.
Agree.
We talked about him again in this episode, Usyk and Gassiev. So we talked about when did they last fight, because obviously Gassiev pulled out with a late injury a couple of weeks ago, and Usyk pulled out from his fight a few months ago. So both of them, their final was actually July of last year, so they're both now into the just over a year, coming on a year and a month since they've both last fought. So it will be like it's a fairly extended layoff that they're going to be coming back from, the pair of them. I know they're not fighting each other, but the same applies for both.
Yeah.
Gassiev's 25, by the way, which I think I always forget just how young he is.
Is he only 25?
He's 25,
Fucking hell.
So maybe it's less of an issue for him. He's got more time, but Usyk's, I think, is he maybe like 30, 32?
Yeah.
Like that.
Spring chicken at 32. Absolute spring chicken.
Absolutely. The only other thing that went wrong last week was when we did the 6 degrees of Danny Williams, my second answer, so it's the 3 steps are Tua to Mike Tyson to Danny Williams. You can't really hear, for some reason, me say Mike Tyson. I actually said when we were recording it, I say Tyson, and then I think I say Tyson as in Mike Tyson. You can't really hear me say it. It doesn't pick up so well on the recording. So in case anyone's wondering like who it was that I said, it was Tyson as in Mike Tyson.
Yeah, not to
Mike Tyson. Iron Mike.
Well, some random news. Talking about real random, Adrian Broner has retired from boxing again.
Oh, fuck off.
Twice this year.
Is he familiar with the concept of retirement? Does he understand what retirement means?
Don't think so. He's just said, I'm done with this shit. And, I mean, I imagine, like, the swimming pool full of cash from his fight that he had, like, against Pacquiao must be ridiculous. So, as long as he is a good boy and pays his taxes, it'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and stops getting, like, arrested for stupid shit. Yeah. He could stop harassing people. Stop waving his money in people's faces.
Don't sexually harass people. Those kind of things.
No. Yeah. I mean, just the basics. Just the absolute basics.
The absolute basics
of being a human being. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Well, good riddance. Cheers. Ciao. Bella. Good. Nothing on the White situation. Nothing on the White situation. Unless I've missed it.
There is. So.
Okay, go on. Good.
He passed his VADA on either side of the fights.
Yes.
So, I think it seems that this is going to be his fucking. There's no way I could have failed, but I don't understand who has a higher jurisdiction. So if you're passed from VADA, right, and you go on and UCAD say, oh, no, but Mr. White, your A sample and B sample have come up for this. But he's like, I took a drugs test on both sides of that, and neither of them showed it, and I can't metabolize the drugs in these time, blah, blah, blah. What happens then? Does he then have to, leave the country and just fight out of a different country? I don't know. It's like a real grey area, I think. It's like being double insured.
Do we need to be some form of explanation as to how it's possible? Is it possible? Do the experts, for example, the guys at UCAD, would they be in agreement that it's basically impossible for him to have legitimately returned a positive reading for theirs while passing VADA testing either side of it? Does that make them inclined to think that their test is somehow a false positive, or is there a way in which it's feasible that because of the gaps between the tests and the type of drugs and the metabolic rate for them, etc., it's possible? So you need to, I guess there needs to be a narrative built to understand whether or not is there a feasible explanation either way. But it's not been concluded yet, I guess, is my point.
No, definitely. But
I would be curious to see. And I take your point, it's well, look, the what is supposed to be the gold standard of drugs testing, I passed. So, give me a break. But then it's well, hold on. Just because you passed those, if you're doing something, then anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
You talked about this when we were out in the mountains. Mm-hmm. Or was it the next day? I can't remember. But there was reports that Fury's next opponent was confirmed, which have now been not confirmed as confirmed. So apparently he may or may not be fighting Otto Wallen, who I couldn't quite put my finger on right away.
No, no fucking idea who this boy is, actually.
I'd heard of him, but I couldn't quite put my finger on. I was like, where?
It's bad when the shitter of the two Furies is fighting someone decent.
Yeah,
Do you know?
he's stepping up. Yeah.
I think this is all about like making sure that Fury wins a few of his American deal fights comfortably, so that he's got such a big like following in the States that they throw on this Wilder fight and it just makes like everybody in the country buys it on pay-per-view. Which is interesting, actually. You know, the Kownacki Arreola fight was actually the most watched sporting event in the US on Saturday night. Yeah.
Really?
So it pulled in some viewers.
I heard it did good.
It did really good figures. So obviously Kownacki's got a bit of a draw, like, because I couldn't imagine it's for Arreola. My girlfriend was like, ha, his name's Arreola. Do you know what an Arreola is? It's like, obviously.
I am familiar.
I am familiar, yes.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of, and I think the attendance. Well, I don't think it was like full or anything, but it was at the Barclays Centre. I think the attendance was like 10,000 or something. It's not too bad, but it's. I think there's quite a big sort of like Polish American community in like New York and surrounding. So, so I think they're obviously all supporting Kownacki.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But he needs to, by the way, we never talked this before, but he needs to get in the gym a little bit.
Yeah.
He needs to shed some pounds. He looks like he's carrying weight that's not doing much for him, I would say. Which he kind of said himself. He said, I can be in better shape. Which is like blatantly apparent. It's like, of course you fucking can. You're like 3 stone overweight. Anyway.
Totally.
Yes, you mentioned the shitter Fury.
The shitter Fury. The shitter of the Furies. Fury is co-main event on the Lomachenko-Campbell card against Povetkin. I like that fight, actually. I think Povetkin wiped the floor with Fury, but I think it's a nice fight, you know.
I think Fury tries to keep it at distance and Povetkin tries to get in close. It's like whether Povetkin gets danced around for 12 rounds or whether he does to Fury what he did to Pricey.
Yeah.
That's the question. Does he land and land big? 'Cause Povetkin can bang for sure. So we'll see.
Totally.
We were quite scathing about the lack of momentum relating to the World Boxing Super Series. Specifically, we were talking about no announcement regarding the super lightweights. But asking you shall receive. The World Boxing Super Series have announced the bantamweight final for November the 7th in Japan, Saitama, Inoue versus Donaire. So it's good that it's been penciled in. I fully expect it to last less than 3 rounds.
I mean, I just don't think Donaire has any business being in the ring with Inoue. Not even a fucking stitch of business. I think Inoue ends that fight in under a minute.
But you know what? Like anywhere else, you'd be like, "Oh, the fans would be really disappointed." But like in Japan, they would just like love him even more. Like they would not care if he knocked him out. They wouldn't be like, "Oh, that's rubbish value."
And they'd quietly leave.
Yeah.
They'd be like, yes.
After politely cheering, they'd be like, "That was good. Let's go."
Now,
let's go.
Apparently, the one to watch is Inoue's younger brother.
Oh,
he
really?
has a younger brother who's looking to be more devastating.
What's he gonna do? Like walk in the ring with like a hammer?
I don't know, like something out of like a movie where he like just starts like punching through people's torsos.
Oh me. That's setting. I think if you're saying, I don't know if he's vocalized that, but if you're saying I want to be more devastating than Neuer, it's like saying I'm going to be a better footballer than Messi, isn't it? Really?
Totally.
It's like you've picked the kind of gold standard of devastating there. So
I know. Could you imagine? If he does. I mean, Christ.
He just looks at opponents and they're like, they like just collapse in a heap.
I would like to know when the fucking Josh Taylor fight's going to be. By the way.
Mm-hmm. Agree. I'm assuming they'll announce it, at some point
next year.
Ever.
Just keep the momentum up. Keep the fucking momentum up.
Come on. If you go on, just out of interest, I went on the website for the Lomachenko Campbell, and the only tickets were like the £300, which I don't even know if that's a reseller, but it was through the official line. Anyway, I think it's basically sold out, which is quite nice.
I'd be worried as well that the 300-pounders are ringside but not ringside, just literally on the floor, where you just have your head up watching a TV screen.
Yeah, it was kind of like weird the way it linked. It was from the Matchroom website, but it linked to a different website. I don't know, it seemed a bit strange, and I was like, well, are there not any other tickets? But anyway, that's what they had. Josh Warrington's next fight's been announced.
Yeah, it has.
This is not the unification barnstormery affair that we were hoping for. This is another kind of
it's a takeover.
Workman-like effort, yeah. Sofian Dakucht is who he's fighting in October, I think, in the Leeds Arena. I don't know what it's called. Whatever it's called, the big Leeds Arena, indoor arena. So he's fighting him. I think he's like ranked reasonably high with Warrington's belts, body in the IBF. But I mean, I don't think he's not one of the better ones in the division. He's not like a top fighter. Like he's saying he's wanting to fight the best, and then he had the mandatory against what's his chops? What's his Kid Galahad?
Yeah.
And then this is his voluntary, but it's against them. Okay, but yeah, it's basically a takeover. So
whatever. I'm out. Right, well, Andy, do you want to tell me then what grinds your gears this week?
You know what really grinds my gears?
Well, do you know, I will do in a second, but I just remembered something else that we have to correct.
Okay.
Random news / correct. I don't think we talked about this last week. Canelo's, and this will go into grind my gears, so don't worry, we'll have some continuity. Canelo is not fighting Derevyanchenko. Did we talk about that last week? I don't think we did.
No, because it just happened on the Friday, so he's been stripped.
He was supposed to fight him, but he's not fighting him, so he's lost the belt instead. Yeah, so they couldn't agree on a purse split, so he's not fighting him, even though it means ceding his belt. So he is not fighting him. And leading into what grinds my gears, John Pascal, when he beat, unexpectedly, as we talked about earlier in the episode, beat Marcus Brown, he called out Canelo. So I know we talk about it a lot, but what grinds my gears this week, very simply, is the fact that any fighter between welterweight and super lightweight who wins, whether unexpectedly or not, and has any kind of profile on the world stage, says, I want to fight Canelo.
Yeah, I know.
And I understand why they're doing it. But someone needs to, there should be a club of all the fighters who've said at one... Right, I'll do it as an exercise. I'll do a list of all the fighters who have said at one point or another that they want to fight Canelo. Because I think you've got basically between welter and super lightweight, which is ridiculous, you've got basically everyone saying, I want to fight Canelo.
Yes.
And it's just ridiculous. And it's like Canelo is like the moon. And everyone is trying to get to the moon. It's like a separate entity of which you can gaze longingly and someday hope to journey. It's ridiculous. It's winding me up. So that is this week. Very simply, what ground my gears. That's it.
Nice. Nice.
Ryan, do you have something to talk about this week?
Oh, I do.
Okay, well, in that case, tell the listeners, what grinds your gears?
You know what really grinds my gears?
Andy, I'm going to tell you what grinds my gears this week, right? Or who grinds my gears this week.
Ooh, who grinds your gears?
Nicola fucking Adams grinds my gears this week, right? She really gets on my fucking tits. So, she's having a fight, she's at the Royal Albert Hall to quote-unquote defend the belt that she didn't fucking win, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, right, so this is supposed to be the 27th of September. The same time she's come out and she's saying about how she wants to win a third gold medal at the Olympics. Okay? Now, this fucks me off for two reasons. Rob McCracken has come out and said, oh, yeah, well, if she, would be very open to have her back on Team GB. Now, I looked into it. There is no rule that says once you've turned professional in boxing, you can't go and fight at the Olympics as long as you qualify for Team GB. Right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, I think that's wrong. Because, imagine Anthony Joshua going, do you know what? Fancy another gold medal. Right? So he's gone and done all these fucking, massive, professional fights, and then he goes and fights some poor fucking lad who's, 18 years old and knocks him clear out. You know what I mean? Anyway. But I think Nicola Adams has a lot of fucking brass to think that she has a right to be anywhere near the top amateur women in this country, especially trying to take up a place at the flyweight division. There won't be, there's one place. She's been unbelievably inactive since her last gold medal. She hasn't. She's fought virtually fucking no one. She's been handed a belt because of default. And she somehow thinks that she's still the best in the world. Who are you, Nicola Adams? Who fucking dare are you? Honestly. It grinds me right the fuck up. And for Rob McCracken to even think that she would be in any way competitive, I think is completely ridiculous as well. And, I don't know, what is there such a drought that you've got to bring this 36-year-old woman in a fucking Zimmer frame to go 3 rounds? What the fuck?
It's interesting because you think, well, yeah, I agree, because there's a few things. There's one thing is if you go back, as you say, you are denying the prospect and the publicity and the chance of kind of forging a career of a young up-and-coming person who would want to go on and be professional. So you're denying them that opportunity. And it's also kind of saying, well, I'm turning my back on the prospect of trying to influence and improve the popularity and the status of the women's professional game. Because she's quite, certainly within the UK, she's quite she's one of the more prominent women boxers.
Which is funny because she never boxes.
It's a delicious irony. But so you think, well, surely her endeavours are better suited to forwarding the cause of women's boxing. Showing that she's a legitimate champion and trying to, reach the status of the, higher end, the kind of the women who've been seen as the pioneers or the absolute stalwarts of women boxing, the Brackhouses, and then now the Shields and the Katie Taylors, the ones that are really kind of trying to forward the cause. Why is she not winning world titles, defending world titles, trying to win more, and being a champion for women's professional boxing, rather than denying the place at the Olympics of a sort of young, hungry next generation fighter?
Exactly.
Agree.
Imagine Katie Taylor went, I fancy a pop at the Olympics again. Do you know what I mean? Or fucking Clarissa Shields. No, do you know what? I've got all of the belts in women's boxing, so I might as well just go and do all of the gold medals as well. Do you know? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
So, I'm sorry. I think someone in Team GB needs to come and say, no, Nicola, I don't think so. Since 2016, right? She's had 5 fights. That's it.
It's not much. Because some of them have been like kind of, like lower level ones. Yeah. So I don't know. It seems odd. It seems. I agree. It seems an odd thing to say. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what she might not end up doing it, but make your mark. Make more of a mark in the professional ranks before you abandon it.
Exactly. Anyway, so that's what grinds my gears this week.
Good. Liked it, Ryan. Liked it more than I thought. I didn't know where you were going with that, but no, I was
going to say. Take you for twists and turns.
Oh,
twists and turns.
Never know where this show is going to go.
Never know. So, that is us for What the F is the Boxing News, guys. Just a reminder, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Boxing Unwrapped. Tweet us some shit. It's good. Drop, we'll follow you back, to be honest, because we need to get the... Oh, we will follow you back. For sure. So, for sure. So, with that in mind, guys, it's goodbye from me, Ryan.
And goodbye from me, Andrew.